Hi, Trenton.
Hi, Connor. Why are all of these movies sad?
Um, because some people really like sad movies.
It makes sense. But why do all of them need to be sad?
What did we watch today, Trenton?
We watched The Green Mile, which was not a football movie.
No, it wasn't.
I really wanted it to be a football movie.
I really tried to warn you.
You did so many times. And you're like, no, you're going to be disappointed, Trenton. It's not about football. Green Mile has nothing to do with anything in the movie.
Also, a mile-long football field would be absolutely ridiculous.
It's huge. It's like, what? It's 120 yards or something?
It's 100 yards.
No, because you have the end zones on both sides.
Okay, 140.
The end zones? More than 10
No.
yards? I don't know many things about the ball of foot game, but I think I know some things about that.
I'll be honest, I thought that I could get that one past you.
Yeah, I know. I did watch football for a very long time. That was the Sunday activity.
Okay.
And then I grew up, moved out of the house.
I grew up, moved out of the house, and realized I couldn't afford football anymore.
Oh, that's a valid point.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that because I don't watch football right now.
So this is completely beside the point, but I'm keeping it in the podcast.
I completely agree. Oh yeah, you're editing now. Thank you. I appreciate
yeah, no
that.
problem.
Yeah, so it was the Green Mile today.
Hold on. I was on football.
Oh, okay, good. Let's do it.
It's impossible to follow football now.
Why?
For a reasonable price because the actually I've told you this before.
Yeah, on the podcast.
Okay, that's fair. But the licensing is all split up now, and so you can't just basically get a basic cable package and just watch as many of the games as you want. You have to pick up different streaming services for different nights
and different times.
Yeah, it's just not.
It's gross.
Yeah,
honestly.
I've got friends that can do it, but I cannot. I don't have the money or the care
to try and follow football.
To keep up with football like that.
And you do fantasy as well.
I do. Yeah.
So
it's fun.
Yeah, I bet.
I still watch the stats. I just don't watch the games.
I watch football news. I don't watch football. I am a football news connoisseur.
Oh.
Dealing football news.
Excellent.
Says Connor. Not me, because I am not. I heard Taylor Swift likes football, and that's pretty much all I've got. Anyway, this movie wasn't about football.
No, it wasn't.
The guy would have been a good linebacker though. John Coffey.
Oh yeah.
He's big.
He's
real big.
He's enormous.
Yeah. Be a very very good lineman.
Yeah, I can never remember the actor's name, but every time he shows up I'm like, "Oh yeah, he's that guy."
He's so good.
Yeah. Like, okay, even when he was in The Dark Knight, he was just...
Who was he in Dark Knight?
He was the inmate that was on the ship and was all like...
Thank you. He was the good guy.
Yeah, he was the good guy.
I saw him and was like, oh no, I immediately love him. Why? That's why. At least one of the reasons. So good. Is this... So, I remember at one point... Oh wait, we should probably get past the spoiler wall actually for that. Yeah. Never mind. I'll wait for that.
Yep.
Whew, I really liked this movie.
Okay.
I would recommend it to many people.
Okay. This one's weird for me because I feel like just right off the bat, I don't think it should be quite as high on the list as it is.
Yeah, totally. It's like 28 or something.
But I feel like once you've seen a certain number of films, you should have come across and watched The Green Mile.
Completely agree.
That's kind of how I feel about it.
It's not really like a rite of passage. It's just, but you will have seen it if you like movies. I completely agree.
I have some problems with it, and some of them are problems that were brought up to me.
Of course.
And so
we'll go and discuss that.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say as far as enjoyment for me, this one probably lands around strong 6 to a light 7.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which again, that's not a
still above average.
That's not a dig. Yeah.
I say above average. We've never given a movie less than 4.
That's
maybe there's a 3. Yes, Scrooge.
Oh, you had to remind me of that.
I know. Because I love life. End of this podcast. Almost like that up. It's gonna be fantastic. If you haven't seen our Scrooge episode with my wife in it, watch the episode. Don't watch the movie.
I completely. Oh yeah. Part of it is because we're still so high on the list.
Yeah.
Like even after a year of doing this, we haven't gotten to the movies that would kind of be controversial.
Nice.
As far as
This
their
is bad.
critical acceptance or
Yeah.
General audience consensus.
That makes total sense.
Which is why these are still so high. As far as technical, probably strong 8 to a light 9.
Yeah.
Most of it works pretty well. There are some serious issues that I have
bugs.
with the CG, some of the sets, not the ones that we spend the most time in. Those ones are
just like some
well
cursory
done.
ones.
Yeah, a lot of the outside shots, I'd go, that looks kind of
interesting.
fake. And the biggest one for me is there are some points where the soundtrack is perfect, and there are other ones where I'm like, this does not fit the tone of the film at all.
I think I kind of remember one or two of those. I see what you're saying there.
So yeah, those are my technical issues with it. I might bump it down to a strong 7 to a light 8.
Wow. I love how you never actually like stick to a number, like one number. It's never been. This is an 8.
Okay, this is art, man.
All art is a gradient.
It's hard to just nail down like, okay, this is precisely where it is, especially in a conversational format.
You need some more thinking functions, and higher in your stack.
They're pretty high.
No, it's the same height as mine, but doesn't matter. It needs better functions. So, for me, I'd say enjoyment was it was a 9, pretty strongly, 8.5 or a 9. But and then technical, I would also agree, like 8. Yeah, there are some things that just like jars me out of this.
Yeah.
So,
but they're few and far between.
Yeah,
I would say.
there's not very many at all. Yeah,
and there are some things that are done really, really well.
Like really, really well. There are multiple just like framing shots or just like establishing shots is I think what they are. Where it's just like I would take a picture of that and put it in an art piece. Like we'll go and talk about a couple of them shortly, but there are just so many good individual shots.
Yeah.
That like hit you, and I'm like, oh wow. Look at that.
The cinematography in this is wonderful.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
I think that's probably about all we can say on this side of the spoiler wall.
Let's jump over.
So like, subscribe, comment.
Please.
Yeah.
Give it to us.
Yep.
Okay. We're good now.
For those not benefiting from the video feed,
I smiled at the camera.
Trenton just grinned at the camera.
Yes, I did.
Uncomfortably.
Go watch the video feed to get the true experience. But yes, please like, comment, subscribe, email us with suggestions and comments. Let us know how you like the new editing style.
Yep.
And that's it.
From my understanding, it's not much different from the old editing style, but
not much different. Completely agree.
So yeah, we're on the other side of the spoiler wall.
We are.
Let's talk characters.
Let's talk let's go characters first.
I'm sorry.
Fine. Whatever.
So I have some issues specifically with the way that they characterize John Coffey.
Okay. Why?
I'll get to that in a second.
Good.
The one thing that this does really well is it makes you care about the characters that it wants you to care about.
Yes.
And it makes you hate the characters it wants you to hate.
It does that perfectly.
Yeah. And honestly, I can't think of a film that does that better.
Yeah. You like this movie feels like it would be hard to argue that it doesn't do its job. Like it does its job perfectly, but almost like too well. Like it's one of those like you're watching it and you're like, okay, this is going too well, like too much according to plan. I need something to spice it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I completely agree. But
yeah, like even the bad guys, like they feel cartoonishly evil.
That is true.
But also in a way that you don't really care that they're cartoonishly evil. You're just like, I hate that guy.
Exactly. I completely agree.
I think Percy is by far he is subjectively the worst. and Bill is objectively the worst.
Yes, I would completely agree with
I
that. Objectively, the worst is Bill, for sure.
But yeah, like it does a really good job of making you just angry and frustrated at Bill, and it makes you want to kill Percy.
Yes, exactly. Like, yeah, no, but again, it does do it like really well. I loved whoever the actor was for Percy. Just did such a good job of being a slime ball.
Oh yeah,
Like, just so well done.
and he's that perfect mix of spoiled brat and like
sociopath.
Yeah, it's weird.
It was very strange to me. Like, okay, this is literally the worst kind of person.
Yeah,
you didn't add any like fleshing out. This is just a bad person. Yes, completely agree.
Also,
nothing redeemable. There are like moments where you're like, oh, is this no? Nothing's redeemable.
Yeah.
any hope you have is squashed like a mouse.
That was horrible. I love it. Also, I haven't read The Green Mile, but I've read a decent amount of Stephen King at this point, and so I kind of understand how he characterizes, and you can kind of see it shining through in certain places in this.
That makes sense.
I
haven't read it either, but I've heard he's very caricature. Not like necessarily straight up caricature, but what's really interesting about the way he writes is he will just introduce a character that's in the thing for like 2 scenes. Yeah.
And you like will get their entire backstory and how they think in one of those scenes. And so you just kind of like, you see these characters. And the one that really got me was the farmer whose daughters died.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know you got at least a page description of what your home life was like.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's very, very interesting to go through and watch something that was
makes sense.
Based off of a Stephen King novel that I haven't read.
Was this, I feel at some point you gave me the summary of a plot that felt very much like The Green Mile.
It's quite possible I did.
And there was controversy over it because... Okay, cool.
Yes.
That sounds like
it's almost
where
certainly
we're going
this.
there.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let's go into the controversy.
It's part of my issue with the way John Coffey is characterized in this.
Serve me the tea.
He is, according to Frank Darabont, who directed the film,
yep,
he is supposed to represent Jesus in a very symbolic sort of way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
And so,
oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's the idea of he
did absolutely nothing wrong.
Does nothing wrong. He understands the pain of the world and sacrifices himself to help others. There are some serious issues with this, especially considering the fact that, okay, 2 things. One, the analogy doesn't hold up to basic theological orthodoxy.
I was about to say, like, vanilla Christianity.
Yeah.
Don't even have to add any of the add-ons.
Yeah. Number 2, and probably more controversially, John Coffey is the only black character that we have in this entire thing, and he's reduced to a symbolic role.
Why is that bad?
Why is that bad?
Yes. Why is that bad?
Because black people are people.
That's a good point.
And especially when you consider the role that he's been
he also
cast
has,
in.
Like, no backstory. You don't get any fleshing out of this character.
Right.
He's literally just a symbol.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And on top of it, they have, and this is almost an afterthought in the movie, but one of the big differences from my understanding, again, I haven't read The Green Mile yet, but I will eventually.
You'll get there.
Is why am I spacing Tom Hanks' character's name?
Boss.
Main guard. Yeah, boss. Whatever.
It's like Paul or Pa or Bam or.
It's probably Paul.
It's probably Paul.
His story is in the book, from my understanding, largely about realizing this dude's innocent and trying to get him taken off death row.
Makes sense.
In this one,
He does that
basically as an
kinda.
afterthought,
Yes,
he
exactly.
goes,
Oh, I should look into this.
yeah, he's like, hey, John, do you want me to let you die?
Exactly. He also goes to the defense attorney.
Yes, but that's when he's trying to figure it out. He doesn't try to convince the defense attorney of anything. He is there
true.
to try to figure out
If he is innocent.
if the defense attorney thinks he's innocent.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some issues there, for sure.
Yeah. That entire scene also just made me uncomfy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So was the choice to make John Coffey black Stephen King's?
Yeah,
or
that was Stephen King's,
Okay.
because part of it was supposed to be sort of a commentary on the racial system,
makes sense.
and the fact that John
I
Coffey
feel like
was
that's even like a
was
better.
brought in because
He's black,
partially because he's black. No one
Exactly.
believed him because he was black.
and I feel like that's a more compelling story.
Yeah.
Like, hey, there's this guy that has some really cool powers, and we don't, and like amazing powers. Like
Mhm.
he's just
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic, and we don't like him because of his skin color.
Yeah.
But he also heals everyone. So
Right. Yeah. And
Put
so
that in
like
your
the
book.
way this movie kind of frames it, it starts to get really uncomfortable when you think about it.
it does.
If you're not thinking about it, it's like, oh,
Oh.
he's just such a kind person. Like,
Exactly.
again, this movie does a great job of making you love the characters you're supposed to love and
Completely
hate the characters
agree.
you're supposed to hate.
Yeah, I hadn't picked up. Like, if you think about it harder, you can see how he's trying to be used as a like messiah figure.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that hard before this point.
And, the idea of him just going around and helping all the white people. It's like, oh.
I'm sure he helped others before this, right?
I hope so.
Off screen.
I hope
Before
so.
this point.
But again, we don't get any
I wonder
image
how
of
old
that.
he was then.
So, yeah, I mean, this
Time
is...
old.
Sorry?
I wonder how old he was.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
It doesn't really explore it.
No.
He says he can't remember his life.
Yeah.
It's been too long.
So, yeah. I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah,
That's a good point on
that's
characterization.
kind of messed up.
I completely agree.
So, yeah, I don't really know where to go after that.
I'm just going to switch topics. I
Cool.
loved the cinematography. There were a couple just absolutely gorgeous shots of old Paul sitting with old friend in the nursing home when it's raining. Lindsay?
No,
Laura?
I don't remember anymore.
Me either. Sarah? Anyway,
It is really easy to forget characters' names in this.
that is also true. There is not very many unique ones. Actually, there are actually a fair number of unique ones, but not unique enough.
Mr. Jingles.
Mr. Jingles! Woo! You know how there's the meme going around sometimes in the Wheel of Time fandom where like Bella is the Dark One?
No. I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, there's an entire group of like, it all makes sense. Bella is like the true evil in this entire system.
I
Anyway.
still need to read the last book, but other than that, I'm totally on board with this.
And that's Mr. Jingles.
Mr. Jingles is the dark one.
Mr. Jingles is the dark one the whole time. Mr. Jingles
no.
gave John his powers.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Don't we see him do stuff before Mr. No, we don't. This is the most wild fan theory I've ever heard.
You're welcome.
Okay, maybe not the most wild.
No,
There are
there's
some
a lot of really
ones out
wild
there.
ones out there. So that one's really good. There's a scene of Paul sitting at his desk with the like cathedral like window behind him
Mm-hmm.
as we like pan towards him, and that's a really, really good shot as
Yeah.
well. I like that a lot.
There are some really good scenes when the lights are exploding.
Love those.
Yeah, every
just
time.
great. Who doesn't like exploding lights?
I don't know.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, probably the guy that's trying to change the light bulbs while they're exploding. That's
there's the guy that was trying to change the light bulbs while he exploded?
well,
In this movie?
no.
Is that a
No,
film job?
no, that's a
Change the light bulbs while they're exploding, please. You get no hazard pay.
that's a fear I have every time I go to change a light bulb at my job.
That's a good point. Yeah, okay. That's reasonable,
So,
actually.
yeah.
So that was really good. And I do like the relationships in this.
Yeah.
Like Paul and his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Love them
Yeah.
both. And
It's one of the few relationships in a movie where you're like, oh, they're married and they actually like each other.
exactly.
Like, that's surprisingly rare.
So nice to have.
And people can believe it because it's set in the past.
Oh, I was like, oh, he's gonna go the sex way. Nope, he didn't. He went the generational trauma way. That's nice.
I will add the disclaimer here that I am married and I am in quite
deep affection.
Yes, quite deep affection with my wife. I still love her very much.
Ditto, and mine too.
No, I'm not in love with your wife.
Well, I am.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, that's why I said ditto. That means me too.
Wait, so you're in deep affection with my wife?
At least a little. She's cool.
Trenton, no.
She punched me a few times.
They would both punch us if they were.
They're gonna hear this at some point. Hopefully, we'll see how this goes. All right. So the relationships in this, fantastic.
Yeah.
Even the guy that's just like terrified for his wife.
Yeah.
They still have like a really nice relationship, and that poor guy.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and that's
Hal.
Yeah. We remembered somebody.
Exactly.
I mean, you did. Miranda is his wife.
Miranda.
Yeah.
Good job.
So, I will
supporting
say
characters.
at the, I think one of the most powerful moments in this film is actually at the barbecue where he's talking about like his wife having these bad days and you can just see how it's affecting him.
Yeah.
Which
Especially as
is
someone
super
married.
weird to say because it's like it's an information scene.
Exactly. It's a small one too, but the actors did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Like, hey, look, I'm married to this person who's having a really, really, really crappy time, and I love her.
Yeah.
And this sucks.
Yeah. And I think it does a lot to set up sort of what he's feeling when they show up later.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely agree. That was really cool. Otherwise, it just does make you feel what you expect to feel. There isn't anything unexpected in this movie. You know that Percy's gonna flip the switch without, or have someone flip the switch without there being a sponge. You know,
I didn't know that until
that's the whole shotgun thing.
the shotgun thing.
Yeah, it's the gun hanging on a wall. What's that law called?
Oh, the Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, it was a Chekhov's gun thing because when he is first learning about this process, there's a very key moment where you're watching. I can't remember if it was Paul or his friend.
It was the old guy.
Oh, it was the old guy?
Yeah.
So you watch the old guy go and squeeze the sponge, and then Percy's like, what's that? And the other guy's like, it's to make sure it kills him real quick. You wouldn't do it without this. Or he wouldn't do this without it. And so it's like,
never,
oh, well.
You never flip the switch without.
Yeah, and so
sponge.
That was an easy one. As soon as the mouse comes, you're he's going to squish it at some point.
I honestly didn't see it coming the first time. It was when he crouched down and he held it over the bucket. I just had this overwhelming sense of dread.
Yeah.
And went, no.
Yeah. I feel like this is the reason you like movies so much, is because you get the experience as it's meant to be instead of all of us other people that are like, ugh, I know this is foreshadowing.
Yeah.
This whole half of this movie is foreshadowing things that are going to happen in the later half of this movie.
So that's part of the reason that I'm not as good at the analysis when we watch a movie that I've never seen.
You're like,
because
It's a
I'm still
movie.
processing.
Exactly.
When I'm watching the movie, I'm taking all of the information in, and then I need like a week to process it all.
I remember that after Across the Spider-Verse. That was great.
I was lost, but I thought it was great.
It was so good.
I usually have an innate sense when I've finished watching something if it was good and holds up to analysis or not. I just haven't done the analysis
I haven't
yet.
done it yet. I need to process it still. That's fantastic.
Speaking of analysis stuff, themes. Yeah.
Racism. At least a little bit.
Yeah,
Not
there
very
just
much, but
isn't
some.
very much in this one, which again I understand
Mostly
is kind of
slurs.
prevailing over the book, but not so much the movie. The one that was really interesting to me was kind of what's nailed home at the end, which is the idea of all of us kind of walking the Green Mile in our own time.
At our own pace, yeah.
Which felt really weird to me. It didn't feel like it kind of clicked with the rest of the movie. It was very
kind of
fatalistic sort of thing.
It is coming from a near immortal.
Yes.
So it kind of makes sense that he's thinking about death a lot because he'd really like to get there.
Yeah, but I don't know. It feels... So what it feels like to me is, if we're going to say that the conclusion to John Coffey's story is him choosing to die, and then a non-sentient mouse is living, and this guy now wants to die.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
Everyone
so
wants to die eventually.
Is the point of this that, like, life just isn't worth the pain? Like, that kind of seems like what they're getting at.
Yeah.
And I can't get on board with that message.
that's not exactly the message that I want. Like, there's also, like, generally, people are bad to each other.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can really do about it.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you try to do about it.
Yeah, which is, I don't know. It's, again, I think I've said this before, but in my writing, I've sort of taken a back step from trying to put themes in my books and basically said, the one theme I'm going to try to stick to is there are good people in the world and they make the world better.
Yeah.
Because I believe that.
That's a good one.
But this is saying the exact opposite.
Especially with the kind of, like, vibe books that you write, too. Like, I'm stoked to go and finish one of these then.
What do you mean, the kind of vibe books I write?
Blood is a literal tool.
You don't know that. That book's not currently being written. It's been set on the back burner until I can do some structural changes.
Speaking of back burner, your short story about people setting on fire.
You don't know about these things.
So, if anyone's interested in his books, just keep waiting. They'll be great.
I appreciate your confidence. I don't have it.
I think they'll be great. I also realized we didn't do any summaries.
Oh, yeah. John Coffey is a magic dude. Quite literally the magic Negro. Okay, let me back up.
Please
because
do.
If you're not familiar with the trope that is referred to as the magic Negro, let me fill you in. Okay, so there was a big spur, I think it was in the 80s, and it kind of went through to almost like the early 2000s, where instead, it was almost a reaction against the negative stereotypes that black people were put into, except now, all black people were just magical, like, founts of wisdom. And, like, if you go back and watch movies from, like, when you were a kid, I guarantee you there's, like, some janitor or something who's black and just gives the answer to the students, and they don't realize it until later in the movie. Or they show up at the end to give them the moral. Like, it's super easy to find.
My brain has a couple of them that I can't pinpoint the movie, but I can see them.
Yeah. So, like, this was definitely a thing. So, I'm not making this term up. The magical Negro is a trope in film. Please don't hate me for naming the trope.
Change the name of the trope, Connor.
Okay. I'm not going
Time's
to.
up. Okay, anyway, back to John Coffey.
Yes. He is a movie trope.
He's a movie trope.
That shows up on death row and starts healing a whole bunch of people and eventually decides to enact judgment on the two bad guys that have been in the movie and then goes to the electric chair for a crime he didn't commit.
Love it. Beautiful.
Also, there's a mouse.
Yeah, an immortal mouse who goes to the circus in John's dream.
Yeah.
So this story follows Paul, who is the main killer man in the prison. He handles all the killings. And unfortunately, that's a lot of killing. He's seen a lot of death. He does a lot of death. He has it down rote. He's very respectful of everyone there because he's like, these people have already had it bad and they're going to have it worse. So we're going to treat him nicely, which is good for him.
Yeah.
It gives him a lot of perks because Black Jesus comes. So very helpful for him. And his...
I honestly don't know if we'll be able to post this.
We'll have to do a disclaimer. There is no summary in this. We tried. We failed. Watch the movie. It's not our fault. This is what's happening in the movie. We can't change it. It's here. The director said so. Anyway, so he, John Mr. Coffey, who's not spelled like coffee, is in the prison, does some nice things, feels lots of pain from a lot of people, and through the course of a lot of things, dies.
That seems very sudden.
Kinda is.
Much more sudden than it was in the movie. We know that's coming.
From the very beginning. But for him, it would have been sudden if he was like literal millennia old. Been like,
in comparison,
I'm just
maybe.
living dead.
In comparison, maybe. Do your minutes go faster now that you're
Yes.
older?
There's a study where like people that are older feel time faster. Feel time. Time doesn't actually go faster, but feel time faster because they've had so much time before. Check it out.
Okay, I'll check it out.
I'll see if I can find the study, but there is one. That's why young kids are like, I'm terrified. I need to do everything that I want to today because I've only had a couple minutes of aliveness right now.
I don't know. When I was a kid, I was bored a lot.
Makes sense.
I think it had more to do with the fact that I haven't been alive that long, and this is a literal eternity that you're making me sit here.
I'm going to find that one and make that a reel. That's good. Beautiful.
I've only been alive for 8 years. An hour is like a quarter of my life.
That checks out so hard. Oh, beautiful. All right,
Yeah.
there's our summaries.
All right.
What is this?
I have no clue what else to talk about with this
I don't
movie.
either. It was good, I think. I'd love to hear all of your comments on it. And if you have any either hot takes or be like, nah, none of your takes were right.
Yeah.
Love to hear both of those.
Yeah. Or if you just think we're racist.
I'd like to hear that too. We do have to check our biases at this point.
Yeah.
Like this episode is doing some weird things to me, Connor.
Yep.
Gonna have to reevaluate most of my life.
I feel very confident about the fact that I know that that's the trope name.
Checks it later while he's editing.
Shit, TV Tropes doesn't have this page anymore.
Time to go to the Internet Arcade.
What?
The Wayback Machine.
Oh. The Internet Arcade?
I don't know. It's supposed to be archived, but I was like, nah. Tune in next week. What is next week?
Next week, Terminator.
Terminator? I hardly know her.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Have you seen Terminator before?
Is this... Oh, yeah, because we do it chronologically no matter what.
Yeah.
So that's nice. I have seen Terminators 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I've seen 1 and 2.
You haven't seen 3?
No.
Oh, that was pretty good.
I saw the reviews for 3 and avoided it on those merits.
4 is great. You should see 4. You should do it. Did you see the Sarah Connor Chronicles?
I saw a couple episodes and I thought they were pretty good.
I thought they were pretty good too.
I didn't.
They had song in it. What's her name? I remember what her name is.
Yeah.
From the flying show in space about cowboys. Not Cowboy Bebop. The other one. Firefly.
Firefly, yeah. That's one of the most overrated shows of all time.
Really? Oh, sounds like that's a reel coming on. This will be a very short form video that we'll go and post at some point. Talking about
the Green Mile video is just chopped up into shorts.
Here's the 10 minutes of the Green Mile, and then the 20 minutes cut into little pieces of everything else in this episode.
Yeah. So thanks for bearing with us on this one, guys. Yeah.
If you like our new format, which is no format, please let us know.
This was at your request. I will have you know.
I didn't request no format, just change the format, which we did. Let us know.
This is your fault.
Thanks, viewers. How do we end this?